Mark 1. Conversations at the speed of sound. Hello and welcome to this episode of Mach 1, the podcast of the Queensland Air Museum Caloundra. My name is Garry Hills, I am a QAM volunteer, and I will be your host for this restoration update episode. It's time to hear an update on our full-scale Supermarine Spitfire Mark 1 representation, K9 787. You're going to hear from Andrew Johns, who's the restoration project manager on the Spitfire, and a lot has been done in the last 12 months, let me tell you. And then you're going to hear from Steve Sherratt, who works on the DC3 restoration team. Our beautiful DC3 ANR is getting very close to being ready to open to the public, and it's very exciting to see how much progress has been made there on the DC3. So you're going to hear from each of those. So first of all, I spoke to Andrew Johns in the workshop hangar, and I asked him to just tell us how things are going. G'day, Andrew.
G'day, Gary. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. And I think since I spoke to you last, you've actually retired from the police force, is that right?
Yes, that's right, yeah, after 40 years.
And congratulations on that, and you now have a little more time perhaps to commit to the Spitfire, is that right?
I wish I had time. I've never been busier.
Yes. So I hear people say. Well, look, we're standing here today in the workshop area where the Spitfire representation is currently being worked on. Why don't you give us an update? A lot's been happening here. The thing looks so different than it did the last time we had a proper look at it. What are the key things that you've achieved in the last few months?
Well, the main so far is the forward 50% of the fuselage. We stripped it right out some time ago. A lot of the original timber work, formwork was rotten. It was rough, it was buckled, and it's all been removed. Last week I removed the section, that bad form out of the nose section. From about frame 13 forward, I've tried to working on representing the framework in a form ply fashion, but it'll be representative of what the aircraft actually looked like when it was built, not the way it was before. So when you look in the cockpit when it's finished, you'll see where the frames are positioned. You'll see where everything, and that is how it would have looked in the day, March to May 1939, and any other Spitfire afterwards that was built and flown.
Okay, now as opposed to what we had before, which was with Vic Weston, who manufactured this in his own property, and he used whatever materials he had to hand.
That's right.
And did a great job.
Yeah.
But clearly what he came up with was not accurate, is that what you're saying?
Dimensionally, yes, it was very close. The problem we had was that it's the longevity of the representation as a display piece. It suffered many years of neglect out the back here. It was unceremoniously cut, had a third cut off it to go into a container, and we've been in the process of rebuilding. But to rebuild it, we've had to go right back to bare bones and start again. So what I've actually done this time to replace Vic's work, we replaced it with form ply, which once it's finished and painted and everything, will help to provide some structural integrity to the frame, to the actual the paneling or the fuselage skin that'll go over it. Part of the structure we're going to is a representation of the Longeron. We're using a 40 by 40 box tube steel, and that's going to run nose to tail to provide some longitudinal strength. We've put some more rigidity into this fuselage tail now that I've got the skin off this morning and to have a decent look at it. So the whole idea will be that the bulkheads that are on the forward section of the aircraft, or the frame, the representation, will also be repeated to the tail, and then that will then be all married up, all tied together. Once it's all tied together, boxed together with additional welding and things like that, it should start to provide a structural integrity to the frame. Long-term plan, or at this stage it's only very much an idea, is to, instead of reskinning it in metal like it was, is to use a 3-ply with a fiberglass skin over the top. So the reason you would shape the ply to fit, glass it over, provides two things. One, provides a watertight skin. No water can get in, as had been the case with the previous skin. And secondly, it also, tying the skin in with the frame will provide further structural integrity, which was an integral part of the original build of the Spitfire anyway.
You've got a twofold purpose, haven't you? You're trying to restore this so that it looks like it would have originally.
Yes.
So that not even just on first glance, but even with a close look, it looks authentic. But then the second thing you're trying to achieve is, as you say, longevity and safety, so that people who sit in the cockpit, you know the thing's not going to collapse or move around.
That's exactly right, and that's the whole reason why we're going back to the bare frame. And if people come in to have a look at it, the yellow section of the painted frame that's clearly visible at the moment, that is the original tubular frame that Vic built. We've added some extra steel to it, but we still have a lot of structural integrity to put back into it. But that will start to happen once we start running the longerons and extra braces and welding in the tail and things like that. All the stuff you won't see, but will provide strength to the frame itself to provide that safe environment where, the plan is that visitors can come, climb up, sit in a cockpit and have their photo taken, for all intents and purposes, sitting in a Spitfire.
And where are you getting your dimensions, your information from, so you know how to cut these spaces and all the things that you're making?
Well, there's about 4 of the frames, 3 or 4 frames. We have reproductions here which I've copied. I've used a little bit of imagination in a few other places. The cowl that we've got up the front, which is the original cowl that was on the engine cowl, I've stripped that out to get the right shape to put the new bulkheads in. But Facebook is a wonderful, wonderful piece of equipment. I'm very lucky. I've researched. On numerous Spitfire pages, project pages. I'm following a lot of Spitfires being built at the moment, and even to the point where I inquired about the undercarriage on the aircraft, of which it seems that no two are the same. And but a fellow from France, on my behalf, went to, I think it was RAF Hendon, one of the big museums in England, and asked the question on my behalf. So I thought, here's a guy with down in the bottom end of the world in Australia, trying to do his best to do this, and I've got people over there who are more than happy. They will give you anything at all, and nothing is a stupid question.
Okay, you've got a great resource there. I think I've seen you've even got drawn plans here that you use as well.
Yeah, there's some basic plans here that the museum's got. They're not highly detailed, but it's enough in a scale where I can recreate roughly the dimensions. At the moment, all the frames that are in are only roughed in; they're only mocked up at the minute. Okay. But ultimately, when we get all the bulkheads on the rear half now, then we can start to get our shapes. Then we can start to refine what we've got, make sure we get the right shape. Because the whole idea is that, as you said, Gary, you're quite right. Somebody who knows or has a good knowledge of Spitfires, I want them to be able to come in, sit down, have a look at this and go, that's a pretty good effort. Yeah. That's what I want. And it's something that, and I myself, I'm a perfectionist, it's got to be right. And if it's not right, it doesn't go in. 2 or 3 being built down in Scone at the moment, or starting to be built. And just a bit of history for the listeners, down there at Pays Aviation, they have bought the remains of X4009, which is a Mark 1A Spitfire, flown by Patterson Clarence Hughes, who was killed in action 7th of September 1940. Pat Hughes was an Australian. And they've bought the remains, and the aircraft's parts of it are being built over in the Isle of Wight at the moment. It's going to all come to Australia, be built and flown in Australia. Wow. as a World War II veteran.
That is a serious enterprise, isn't it?
So if I could get anything close to that, I would be a very happy man.
Can we just go and have a look at the cockpit area here for a moment? Sure. I see you've already, developed, what is this, sheet metal frame for the cockpit instrument panel, is that right?
Instrument panel, yeah. That one's, I have my own Mark 1A instrument panel at home.
Of course you do.
Well, who doesn't? And anyway, so what I've done is I've used mine as the pattern for this one, so I know that it's accurate. And with some mock-up instruments, it'll only contain 1 or 2 real instruments. They'll be mocked up to give the appearance of the real deal. I've actually, I don't have it with me here, but I've made a version of, this is actually a reproduction of a compass tray owned by the museum, but I've reproduced my own, and that'll sit up just up in there in about that area there. And then the pilot, and then we'll have spade grips and all that sort of stuff to give it the impression that it's the real deal. With this one, I'm not putting real parts in it because I think the real deal stuff is far too valuable, and I would much rather see the real stuff saved for a better cause, in that it's for a real aeroplane as opposed to a mock-up. But ultimately, the seat, we'll have a mocked-up seat which was in it at the moment. People, as I said, hop in, sit down. They'll have rudder pedals, you'll have the control column, spade grip, we'll have the throttles, we'll have all that sort of stuff all done up, all plumbed up, to look like it would have done as if you were sitting in a real cockpit.
How many on your team at the moment?
Just the two of us. Frank's away at the moment, he's on holidays, but just the two. But at the present time, that's sufficient for what we need because of the work we're doing. When it comes time to skinning, it might be a little bit different. We might need a few extra hands to do that. New undercarriage to build. Unfortunately, the old ones, they failed. One particular, the starboard side actually started to collapse on us, so it had to come off. We're going to rebuild new ones in accordance with some legs that we've got here we can copy.
Okay. And how are the wings? Where are they up to? The last time I looked at them, they were in a very sad state.
And they still are. They're out the side, actually, out in the weather. But ultimately, again, like this one, once we've got the fuselage done and we're back to rolling and it's enough that we could get it out of the way, the wings will come in, strip them right down to the bare frames, and we'll rebuild those as well.
And are you thinking fiberglass there too, or metal skin?
Probably similar. But what we've got to try to achieve, though, is we've got to try to lighten them somehow, because the weight of the steel, everything is critical to the connection where the undercarriage goes, because that's what's taken all the strain. So we need to be able to try and, the fuselage is heavy enough, but try and lighten the wings up somehow. Again, that's a project or an idea I haven't done much thought on because I've been too busy with this one.
Oh yes, not trying to push you, because I know that will be a very big task.
Yeah, it'd be probably no bigger than what we're doing here now. So it's a full rebuild, but the state that it was in, a full rebuild is required. As you can see by the back section here, just like as an example, this is the original bulkhead of one of them. That's chipboard.
Oh yes, and it's all rotten.
Yeah, the weather got into it, it's destroyed it.
Are you organising a group outing for your club? Maybe a reunion or even a birthday party? Perhaps you're planning an evening event and you're looking for a unique venue. At the Queensland Air Museum, we welcome inquiries from groups to visit the museum between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. and can offer a highly enjoyable experience in aviation history. Tours are conducted by our experienced volunteer guides. Bring your lunch and make a day of it. Hangar 2 at the museum is a unique and welcoming space. 3,000 square metres of sealed floor space, undercover but open on two sides, allowing cooling breezes and ambient light. Tables and chairs located under the wings of our historic aircraft. After hours, the venue can accommodate up to 200 people with chairs only, or up to 120 people seated at tables. And we have played host to hangar dances, birthday parties and even opera nights in the hangar. Imagine performing on stage with the oldest DC3 in Australia as your backdrop. Contact us under bookings on the Queensland Air Museum website, or email our Tours and Events Manager at tours@qldair.museum, or phone us with your inquiry. The Queensland Air Museum Caloundra, an amazing, welcoming and unique venue for your tour or event. So you're talking about fiberglassing the skin. We don't have fiberglass workers here. How are you planning to do that?
Do it myself. Just have a go. Well, I've done a little bit of glassing in the past. I'm not by no means qualified experts or anything like that. But YouTube's a wonderful thing. and just ask advice for people who've done it in the past and just get some tips on how to do it.
You sound like a brave man to me, but I guess you've got your mould, haven't you? Because you've got the shape of the fuselage with the plywood covering it, and you're basically matching that with the fiberglass.
Exactly right. Just got to once the form ply, if we do go down that track, which I think we will, once the form ply fuselage is completed, then we just basically lay the fiberglass over the top, and then resin it in, and it'll just adhere to the timber, and then that'll give you the final finish. This is always the $1 million question. How much longer? Can't tell you. I'd say to people who come to visit, I say probably a couple of years, 2 days a week, and with the except. But in saying that, once the bulkheads are in place, we've got it, and once everything's locked in, it won't take that long to finish the externals of it. But we've got to do a lot of internal in the cockpit work before we skin it, because it'll be easier to access with the skins off than with the skins on, in most cases anyway. So that's the grand plan at this stage.
Well, look, it's still a common question people ask when they come in here, do you have a Spitfire? It's certainly still in the public's mind a very important piece of aviation history, as indeed it is, but it just happens to be well known where some others aren't. So it will be wonderful to be able to have this here. So this is K9787, full representation. It will look as it did, I guess, when it was delivered to the RAF in 1938, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yep.
Well, good on you, mate. And you do sound like you're enjoying yourself.
Oh yeah, it's good fun. Yeah. It's just a matter of applying and just putting a bit of thought into it and working out ways, and waking up at 1 o'clock in the morning. Oh, that's how I'll do that. So.
Well, I was just going to say, in terms of retirement, something that you're interested in, something that gives you a bit of exercise, something to get you out. Yeah. All those all boxes are ticked. But it's also an important project. It's something that you can look at proudly when it's done and know that you did that, and the museum will be able to, in perpetuity, take advantage of having it here. So good on you, mate. All the very best. We'll probably check in 12 months' time and see how you're going.
Hopefully we'll be a bit closer to finishing. Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, mate.
And finally, for this episode, I met up with Steve Sherratt at the rear of Hangar 2 in the DC3 workshop area, and asked him to bring us up to date on all of the things that have been going on there over the past few years. How many years would you say this current restoration has been going on, Steve?
I think we've been nearly up to 5 years now.
Every week you come in here, there's something new to see, and it's looking gorgeous. Getting very close, Steve?
Yeah, not too far now. We just got to finish the tail and the rudder. That's just having the paint removed, ready for the primer, and then we do the finishing of the detail work. From like 5 years ago, the plane, we had to remove all of the paint work and repair a lot of the missing rivets, and we've done a lot of panel work.
So let's go through it. I mean, this paint work is one thing, but you've actually had to manufacture panels, and so tell us what panels you've had to manufacture and replace.
Well, first of all, we removed the fuel tank bay doors because we needed to get in and do a lot of corrosion maintenance work. We repaired and replaced a lot of the rivets in those panels using original rivets, which are pretty hard to work with nowadays. We used 800 new nuts and bolts to replace the...
That's just for the fuel tank covers?
Yeah, just there, yeah.
800?
Yeah. Then there's the engine covers. We made 10 new covers to match the originals. We used those as templates, re-drilled them all, replaced those. And on the roof, we completely gutted maybe 50% of the roof off to get inside, because a lot of the runners and the bearers were badly corroded, so we replaced those. We manufactured new panelling for the roof and replaced that.
It seems that there must have been water ingress just on the top of the fuselage, is that right?
A lot of condensation runs to the top, and that's where a lot of the corrosion was, sort of just above the cockpit. And we used, believe it or not, over 3,000 rivets replacing that. So that's 3,000 holes you've got to drill to take the old ones off, 3,000 holes you've got to drill to put the new ones on, and 3,000 rivets you've got to fit in the holes.
Plus you actually have to manufacture each panel from the template from the old one. Did you do that yourself?
Yeah, a lot of it. There was quite a few of us working on it, probably about 6 people.
Okay.
Yeah. Then we got on to the sort of the paint work. We had a lot of work doing the research on what the paint job is actually supposed to look like.
So this is Airlines of New South Wales,
Yeah.
and the reason for that is that when it came to the museum, I believe its most recent livery was Airlines of New South Wales. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's New South Wales livery, and it's got the Viewmaster windows, which were fitted in about 1960.
Now
So
explain those to people.
they're just longer windows that were fitted so that the travelling tourists and public get a better view out of the windows, because originally
so that-
it was a DC3 with only the small windows.
Right, so it's for customer comfort in a
Yeah.
commercial airliner.
Yeah.
Right, and it's got those, so it really needs to be returned to that format.
Yeah. And it was used, I think it was called the Jolly Swagman tours around New South Wales and Queensland, about around sort of 1960 time. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, it's gorgeous. The red, white and blue livery is very striking, isn't it? And you've got the Royal Mail logo there as well, because obviously that was a part of its role.
Yeah, Angelo and his team, he did the lettering and all of that, which is very important.
We have our own graphics shop here, and we're able to produce some of these things anyway, and he's done a fantastic job.
Yeah, it's been a lot of different colour schemes. Started off as a KLM years ago.
I think if anyone's interested in the provenance of this aircraft, if they go to our website and click on exhibits, there's a very long and detailed record there of what this aircraft has done. So how about the interior, Steve? What's going on in there?
Yeah, well, that's not really my department, but there's a few of the guys who are going to be restoring the roof. The roof is going to be painted with upholstery paint on the inside, and then we're going to give the seats and everything a nice look over and a nice clean, because we get a lot of dust in there, and because we've not sort of been working in there, we've only been doing the outside. So you get a lot of dust that's gone through from where we're doing the drilling and things in the roof.
But the aim will be, once it's open to the public, you can go in there and sit in these seats and imagine you are actually flying in this. And the cockpit is complete also, I believe.
Yeah, no problem in the cockpit. Beautiful.
Okay.
And you'll be able to sit inside and look out of the Viewmaster window, like the tourist did looking out at Ayers Rock. There's pictures on the website that will show you this aircraft and looking out of the window at Ayers Rock, which is pretty impressive.
So what is still remaining? You've got the tail to paint. What's after that?
Yeah, we've got the tail and the rudder, and then we're going to detail the engines a little bit, and we're going to repaint the propellers. I think they're going to be light grey with yellow tips with a dark grey hub.
And again, you've researched that, so you know that that's authentic. So look, congratulations, mate, to you and the team for what you're doing here, because you're here every week quietly in the corner of Hangar 2, working away, riveting thousands of rivets, manufacturing, and it gets hot in here and so on. But people walk past, and this is a magnificent display, and we're really looking forward to being able to take away some of the barricades when it's open to the public, have people come and have a look, and maybe put some nice tables and chairs under it or anything, and you can have coffee under the wings or something like that.
I want to be able to make it nice so people can take nice photographs as well without the clutter, but at the minute we've got to have the clutter for safety, the safety railings to keep people from wandering out underneath.
One of the things I love, whoever thought of this was genius, the stage is mounted on the floor in here just under the nose of ANR. And it's, when we have an event like a hangar dance or opera here, you have somebody on stage with this magnificent backdrop, lit up at night. And now with the new striking colours, it's even more spectacular. So look, well done. Have you enjoyed this kind of job?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I preferred working on the Ventura, because we were working on that for maybe 8 years. It's one of the longest running projects in the museum, that is. But yeah, we'll probably be going back on that soon to do the Bombay doors, which will be exciting.
That's about the last thing to do. I think the navigator's table.
Yeah.
We must do a story about the Ventura, because that is, as you say, a fantastic story of what volunteers can do, and a rescue mission of this poor old lump of a fuselage that was a chook pen and used for pig feed and so on, and now it's restored and it's beautiful. So look, Steve, thank you very much for talking to us today. What's your background, just by the way?
I'm a fitter machinist.
Okay.
Used to work CNC machines in the UK, making aircraft parts and things like that. Filter bodies for 747s, that sort of stuff. But I'm into model engineering now, steam engine stuff like that. That's another story.
It is, and I've seen some of your handiwork, and it's brilliant the way you can take a piece of aluminium that you have cut and make it look like an old piece of rusty iron. It's just amazing. Well, look, Steve, sorry.
Yeah, the beauty of it is when you're doing model engineering, everything's small, so you use everyone else's junk. Their scrap is my treasure, eh?
Thanks, Steve. It's been great talking to you, and congratulations again.
Oh, thanks, Gary. Anytime.
Steve was at pains to point out to me after the interview that, you know, he's not the only one working on this aircraft, and of course that's true. He's part of a team. He just happened to be the poor one who was standing there when I came wandering along with my microphone. You know, Rob Wallison here, there every day, every week, and there are many others who have come and gone over the years and have continued to work on that project. Forgive me, gentlemen, for not mentioning you all by name, but thank you to you all on behalf of the Queensland Air Museum and on behalf of all the visitors who come in, to you and all of our restoration team. You do a magnificent job, and often it's in the hot sun or it's in the rain. It's under quite difficult conditions sometimes, and you carry on there week after week, and you do little bits at a time, and the results are just wonderful. None of our airframes are airworthy, and that's deliberate. That's not part of the plan or the mission of the Queensland Air Museum. Other museums do that. We don't. We quite deliberately choose to restore these aircraft to a condition where they can be observed and enjoyed by the public, but there is no intention to bring them anywhere near an airworthy condition. So, but that does not in any way diminish the loving and dedicated commitment of these volunteers who work away week after week on these aircraft. So that's just a quick update on our Spitfire representation and our Douglas DC3. So that's our episode. Thank you for listening. Lots of things going on at the Queensland Air Museum. We could always use more volunteers. If you're listening and you're handy with tools or you're quite comfortable operating around machinery, you don't have to have an aviation background at all, but if you're a specialist, if you're a tradie and you can weld or you can do fiberglass molding or painting, or even, as I say, just you're comfortable working in a team with tools, we would love to have you join us maybe 1 or 2 days a week, depending on what you can do. It's a great opportunity to work on very interesting and worthwhile projects with others who have a similar passion for restoring Australian aviation history. Don't forget we're open every day of the week except Easter Friday and Christmas Day from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. 7 Pathfinder Drive, Caloundra. Come on in sometime and make yourself known to us. We would love to meet you. Bye for now.